The Galactic Council Chamber was the largest room Tommy Park had ever seen in his life. The ceiling stretched so high that clouds actually formed near the top. Strange lights floated in the air like tiny stars, and the walls were made of some kind of dark metal that seemed to swallow sound. Tommy was only 12 years old, and he felt very, very small. His Uncle David walked beside him, wearing a fancy black suit with a small American flag pin on his chest. Uncle David was the human ambassador to the Galactic Council, which meant he had to talk to aliens and represent all of Earth. It was a very important job, and Tommy felt proud that his uncle had been chosen for it. But right now, Tommy was also scared. Hundreds of alien creatures sat in massive seats that rose up like a stadium all around them. Some aliens were tall and thin with too many arms. Others were short and covered in scales that clicked when they moved. A few looked almost like giant insects, and Tommy had to look away from those because they made his stomach feel weird. The human group was small. Just Uncle David, Tommy, and 4 guards who carried no weapons because weapons were not allowed in the council chamber. Tommy knew that humans had only discovered alien life 5 years ago, and they were still very new to all of this. Most alien species had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Humans were like babies compared to them. Tommy touched the small medal hanging from his neck. It was bronze and shaped like a cross, with a ribbon that used to be bright red, but it faded over time. The medal had belonged to his father, and Tommy never took it off. It made him feel like his dad was still with him, even though his dad had been gone for 3 years now. A loud horn sound echoed through the chamber, and everyone became quiet. Tommy looked up at the biggest throne he had ever seen. It was made of bones. Real bones from real creatures, stacked and arranged into a seat that was both beautiful and terrifying. Queen Velthra sat on that throne. She was enormous. Her body was covered in dark purple armor that Tommy realized was actually her skin. She had 4 arms, each one ending in claws that looked sharp enough to cut through steel. Her face had 4 eyes, 2 large ones in the front and 2 smaller ones on the sides of her head. When she smiled, Tommy saw rows of teeth that were definitely made for eating meat. The Dominion Empire was the most powerful group in the galaxy. They had conquered 47 planets over 300 years, and Queen Velthra had ruled them for all of that time. Nobody knew how long her species lived, but it was a very, very long time. Humans, Queen Velthra said. Her voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. A small device near her throat translated her words into English. You come before the Galactic Council as newcomers. You are weak. Your planet is small. Your technology is primitive. Tell me why we should not simply take your world for ourselves. Uncle David stepped forward. His voice was calm and steady, even though Tommy knew he must be scared too. Your Majesty, humanity comes in peace. We seek to learn from the Council and to share what we can offer. We believe in cooperation, not conquest. Queen Velthra laughed. It was not a nice laugh. It sounded like she was mocking them. Many of the other aliens laughed too, especially the ones that Tommy could tell were predators. They had sharp teeth and forward-facing eyes, just like wolves and lions back on Earth. Cooperation, the Queen repeated. The weak always speak of cooperation. It is what prey says to predators. Tommy felt his face grow hot. He did not like the way she was talking about humans. Yes, humans were new to space travel. Yes, humans did not have the biggest ships or the most advanced weapons. But that did not make them weak. A massive alien stood up from his seat. He was at least 8 feet tall, with gray skin, tusks coming out of his lower jaw, and arms as thick as tree trunks. Tommy had read about his species in the files Uncle David had shown him. They were called the Ravek, and they were known as the greatest hunters in the galaxy. I am Commander Kreth, the alien said. My people have hunted across 1,000 worlds. We can smell fear. And I smell it now, coming from your little group. He pointed one massive finger at Tommy, especially from the child. Why have you brought a youngling to this place? Is this some kind of joke? Tommy felt everyone looking at him. His heart was beating so fast he could feel it in his throat. He wanted to hide behind his uncle, but he made himself stand still. His dad had always told him that being brave did not mean you were not scared. Being brave meant doing the right thing even when you were scared. Uncle David put a hand on Tommy's shoulder. My nephew asked to come. He wanted to see this historic moment for humanity. Queen Velthra leaned forward on her throne. Her 4 eyes focused on Tommy, and he felt like she was looking right through him. Then her gaze dropped to his chest, to the medal hanging there. What is that? She asked. Her voice had changed. She sounded curious now, like a cat that had spotted something interesting. Tommy touched the medal. It was my father's, Your Majesty. A decoration? A symbol of some kind? The queen tilted her head. In my empire, only warriors are allowed to wear symbols of honor. They must earn such things through blood and victory. She smiled her terrible smile. Surely your weak species does not pretend that children can earn warrior honors? More laughter from the aliens. The predator species seemed to find this especially funny. The rabbit commander was showing all his teeth in a grin that made Tommy think of a shark. I did not earn this medal, Tommy said. His voice came out quieter than he wanted, but he kept talking anyway. My father did. Your father? Queen Velthra sat back. And what great deed did your father accomplish to earn such a trinket? Did he kill many enemies? Did he conquer territory for your people? Tommy shook his head. No, Your Majesty. My father was a firefighter. The translator made a strange sound, like it was having trouble with the word. Then it spoke the translation, and confusion spread across the alien faces in the chamber. Fire. Fighter? Queen Velthra repeated slowly. Your father fought against fire. Against a natural element? She looked at the other aliens and spread her 4 arms wide. Humans fight against nature itself. How primitive. How utterly foolish. The laughter was louder this time. Tommy could see aliens pointing at him, making gestures he did not understand, but knew were meant to be mean. But Tommy did not look away from the queen. He stood straight and tall, just like his father had taught him. And when the laughter finally died down, he spoke again. May I tell you about my father, Your Majesty? The queen's eyes narrowed. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she waved one clawed hand in the air. Very well, small human. Amuse us. Tell us about your primitive father and his foolish profession. Let us hear what passes for honor among your weak species. Tommy took a deep breath. Then he stepped forward, away from his uncle, and walked toward the center of the chamber. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. Every alien in the room was watching him now, and Tommy began to speak. Tommy stood alone in the center of the great chamber. The floor beneath his feet was made of smooth black stone that reflected the floating lights above. He could see his own face looking back at him, small and pale against the darkness. All around him, hundreds of aliens watched. Some were leaning forward with interest. Others were still smiling with mockery. The predator species, especially the Ravik and the Thornax, looked at him the way a cat looks at a mouse, like he was something small and weak that existed only for their amusement. Tommy's hands were shaking a little, so he put them behind his back where no one could see. He remembered what his father used to say before every baseball game Tommy played. Stand tall, son. Look them in the eyes. You've got nothing to be ashamed of. So Tommy stood tall. He looked at Queen Velthra, who sat on her throne of bones with an expression of bored amusement. And he began to speak. On Earth, Tommy said. Fire is very dangerous. It can destroy everything. Houses, forests, cities. Fire does not care if you are rich or poor, strong or weak. When it comes for you, you can only run. As prey should, Commander Kreth of the Radek interrupted. He was still standing, his massive arms crossed over his chest. When danger comes, the weak run. This is the law of nature everywhere in the galaxy. Only the strong stand and fight. Tommy turned to look at the huge alien. Kreth was more than twice his height and probably weighed as much as a car. His gray skin was covered in scars from battles Tommy could not imagine. This was a creature that had killed for sport across hundreds of worlds. And Tommy was a 12-year-old boy from Chicago. But Tommy did not look away. You are right, he said. When fire comes, most people run. That is the smart thing to do. That is what keeps you alive. He paused. But firefighters run the other way. A murmur went through the chamber. Some aliens translated his words to others who did not understand English. Tommy saw confusion on many faces. They run toward the fire? Asked a small alien near the front. This one looked like a turtle standing on two legs, with a shell covered in colorful patterns. Tommy remembered reading about them. They were called the Mallory, and they were known as the most peaceful species in the galaxy. They had no warriors, no armies. Yes, Tommy said. When everyone else is running away from danger, firefighters run toward it. That is their job. That is what they choose to do. Queen Velfer made a sound that might have been a snort. They choose to run toward death? For what purpose? Glory? Rewards? Tommy shook his head. No, Your Majesty. They do it to save people they have never met. The chamber became very quiet. Tommy could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. Explain, the Queen commanded. Her voice was harder now, less mocking. She was actually listening. Tommy touched the metal on his chest. My father's name was James Park. He worked at a fire station in Chicago, which is a big city on Earth. He had been a firefighter for 15 years. Before that, he was a soldier in our military for 6 years. Ah, Commander Kreth said, nodding his massive head. A warrior, then. He earned this medal in military combat? No, Tommy said. He earned this medal after he stopped being a soldier. He earned it as a firefighter. The Ravik commander looked confused. But you said firefighters do not fight enemies. They fight fire, which is just a natural thing. How can one earn a warrior's honor by fighting nature? Tommy looked around the chamber. He saw the Thornax general, a creature covered in thick scales with spikes running down his back. The Thornax were known as the greatest ground warriors in the galaxy. Their soldiers were famous for never retreating, never surrendering. They valued strength and courage above all things. General Vestok, Tommy said, addressing the Thornax directly. This surprised many in the chamber. It was not normal for a child to speak directly to such an important figure. On your world, what is the greatest courage a warrior can show? The general's yellow eyes studied Tommy with new interest. To face death without fear, he rumbled. To stand against impossible odds. To fight when others would flee. Tommy nodded. On Earth, we feel the same way. But we believe something else too. We believe the greatest courage is not just facing death for yourself. It is facing death for someone else. For a stranger. For someone you will never know. Someone who will never be able to pay you back. The general said nothing, but he did not look away. My father, Tommy continued, did not fight fire because he wanted glory or medals. He did not do it for money, because firefighters on Earth do not make much money. He did it because there were people trapped in burning buildings who could not save themselves. Children, old people, mothers and fathers, regular people who just wanted to live. Tommy's voice was getting stronger now. The fear was still there, but something else was growing too. Pride, love for his father, and a fierce desire to make these aliens understand. Every time my father put on his uniform, he knew he might not come home. His wife, my mother, knew it too. She kissed him goodbye every morning, and she never knew if she would see him again. Tommy felt his eyes getting wet, but he did not stop. He missed my birthday twice because he was fighting fires. He missed Christmas once. He missed my first baseball game because someone's house was burning and they needed help. Uncle David was watching Tommy with tears in his eyes. He had not expected his nephew to speak like this. None of them had. And my father never complained, Tommy said. Not once. Because he knew that the people he was saving were someone else's father, someone else's mother, someone else's child. He used to tell me, Tommy, every person matters. Every life is precious. And if I can help save even one, then my life means something. Queen Velthra had gone very still on her throne. Her 4 eyes were fixed on Tommy with an expression he could not read. You speak of your father in the past tense, she said quietly. He is dead? Tommy nodded. Yes, Your Majesty. He died 3 years ago. Fighting a fire? Yes. The Queen leaned forward. Tell me how. And Tommy knew that this was the moment. This was why he had come, even though he had not known it until now. His uncle had brought him to see humanity introduced to the galaxy. But maybe, just maybe, Tommy was here for a different reason. Maybe he was here to show the galaxy what humanity really was. It was a building fire, Tommy began. An apartment building in downtown Chicago, 32 floors high. And it was the worst fire my father had ever seen. The chamber was completely silent. Even the predators had stopped their whispering and shuffling. Every alien in the room was listening to the small human boy, and Tommy told them the story of how his father died. Tommy closed his eyes for a moment. He could still remember that night like it was yesterday. The sound of fire trucks in the distance. The red and blue lights reflecting off the windows of their house. His mother crying in the kitchen while his grandmother held her. It happened on a Tuesday night, Tommy said. November 14th, I was 9 years old. The aliens watched him silently. Even Commander Kreth had sat down in his massive seat, his cruel smile gone. The fire started on the 5th floor of the building, Tommy continued. Later, they found out it was caused by old electrical wires. The building was very old, and the owners had not fixed it properly. By the time the fire department arrived, the flames had already spread to 10 floors. Tommy opened his eyes and looked at the Queen. Do you know what 32 floors looks like, Your Majesty? Queen Velthra tilted her head. I have seen buildings much taller on many worlds. Yes, but have you ever imagined being at the top of one while the bottom is on fire? Tommy asked. Have you ever imagined being trapped, with smoke filling your lungs and heat burning your skin, knowing that the only thing between you and death is a stranger in a yellow helmet? The Queen did not answer. There were 247 people in that building when the fire started, Tommy said. 247 regular people who had just come home from work, who were eating dinner with their families, who were helping their kids with homework. They did not know that in a few minutes, their whole world would turn into flames. Tommy began to walk slowly around the center of the chamber. His sneakers made soft sounds on the stone floor. My father's team was one of the first to arrive. He was the captain, the leader of his group. They had 12 firefighters and 2 trucks. When they got there, people were screaming from windows on the upper floors. Some were throwing things down, waving for help. A few had already jumped because they were so scared. A soft gasp came from the Mallory section. The turtle-like aliens were holding each other, their eyes wide with horror. My father organized the rescue, Tommy said. He sent teams into the building through different entrances. They carried heavy equipment, hoses, and oxygen tanks. The smoke was so thick you could not see your own hand. The heat was so strong it could melt the plastic on their helmets. Tommy stopped walking and faced the Predator section of the chamber. "Commander Kreth, you said your people are great hunters. You said you can smell fear. Can you imagine hunting in a place where you cannot see, cannot breathe, where every step could be your last because the floor might collapse under you?" The Ravik commander was silent for a long moment. Then he slowly nodded his massive head. "That would be challenging. My father went into that building 6 times, Tommy said. 6 times. Every time he came out, he was carrying someone. An old woman who could not walk. A teenager who had passed out from the smoke. A father holding his 2 young sons. 6 trips into hell, and 6 trips back out." Tommy's voice cracked a little, but he kept going. After the 6th trip, the fire chief told him to stop. The building was becoming too unstable. The lower floors were starting to collapse. It was too dangerous, even for firefighters. Queen Velthra leaned forward on her throne, but he did not stop. Tommy shook his head. No, he did not stop, because someone had told him there was still a child on the 28th floor. A 4-year-old girl named Emma. The chamber was so quiet that Tommy could hear the soft hum of the floating lights above. Emma's mother was outside, screaming. She had gotten separated from her daughter in the panic. She had run down the stairs, thinking Emma was behind her, but Emma had gone back for her teddy bear. By the time the mother realized, it was too late to go back. The stairways were full of fire. Tommy touched his medal again. My father heard the mother screaming for her child. He looked up at the building. The 28th floor was almost at the top. Fire was coming out of windows on multiple floors below it. The whole structure was shaking. What did he do? General Vestok asked. The Thornax warrior was leaning forward, his scales bristling with tension. He told his team to stay outside, Tommy said. He told them it was too dangerous for anyone else. Then he took a fresh oxygen tank, put on his helmet, and walked back into the building, alone. A sound rippled through the chamber. It was not laughter this time. It was something else. Surprise, maybe. Or respect. It took him 11 minutes to reach the 28th floor, Tommy said. 11 minutes of climbing through smoke and fire, dodging falling debris, feeling the building shake around him. His radio stopped working on the 20th floor because the heat melted it. He had no way to call for help. Tommy's eyes were wet now, but his voice stayed steady. He found Emma in a closet. She had closed the door and put wet towels under it, just like her mother had taught her. She was scared and crying, but she was alive. My father picked her up and wrapped her in his fireproof coat. And then? Queen Velthra asked. Her voice was soft now, almost gentle. He started back down, Tommy said. But the building was falling apart. On the 25th floor, the stairwell collapsed. Several aliens made sounds of distress. The Mallory were openly crying. My father fell 3 floors, Tommy said. 3 floors, with a 4-year-old girl in his arms. When he landed, his back broke in 4 places. His left arm shattered. His oxygen tank cracked and started leaking. Tommy looked at the Queen, but he never let go of Emma. Even when he hit the ground, even when he felt his bones break, he kept his body wrapped around her. He used himself as a shield, so she would land on him instead of the hard floor. The chamber was absolutely silent. The other firefighters found them 20 minutes later, Tommy said. My father was unconscious, but his arms were still locked around Emma. They had to pry him loose because his muscles had frozen in that position. Even knocked out, even dying, he would not let her go. Tommy wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. Emma walked away with bruises and a small cut on her forehead. She did not even need to stay in the hospital overnight. She is 7 years old now. She goes to school. She plays soccer. She has her whole life ahead of her. And your father? Commander Kreth asked. His voice was rough, strange. My father died in the hospital 2 days later, Tommy said. He never woke up. He never got to say goodbye to my mother or to me. The last thing he did in this life was save a stranger's child. Tommy lifted the medal from his chest and held it out so everyone could see. This is the Medal of Valor. It is the highest honor a firefighter can receive. They gave it to my mother at my father's funeral. She gave it to me because she said my father would have wanted me to have it. Tommy let the medal fall back against his chest. My father did not conquer any planets. He did not defeat any armies. He did not make any species bow before him. He was just a man who ran into fire because a little girl needed saving. And that is what makes him a hero. The aliens stared at the small human boy. Many of them did not know what to say, but Queen Velthra knew exactly what to say. Tell me more, she commanded. Tell me what this means for your species. And Tommy was ready to answer. Queen Velthra rose from her throne of bones. She was even more massive when standing, towering over everyone in the chamber. Her 4 arms hung at her sides, claws gleaming in the floating lights. But there was something different about her now. The mockery was gone from her eyes. The cruel smile had disappeared. She walked down the steps from her throne slowly, each footstep shaking the floor. The other aliens watched in stunned silence. The queen never left her throne during council meetings. Never. It was unheard of. She stopped about 10 feet from Tommy. Up close, she was terrifying. Her purple armor skin was covered in old scars from battles fought long ago. Her teeth could bite through metal. Her claws could tear a human apart in seconds. But Tommy did not step back. He stood his ground and looked up at her. I have ruled the Dominion Empire for 300 cycles, Queen Velthra said. I have conquered 47 worlds. I have destroyed armies and broken the spirits of species that dared to stand against me. I have seen every kind of warrior the galaxy has to offer. She paused, studying Tommy with all 4 of her eyes. I have never heard a story like this one. Tommy did not know what to say, so he said nothing. Your father died to save a child that was not his own, the queen continued. This child was not from his family, not from his tribe, not from his territory. She was a complete stranger. Yes? Yes, Your Majesty. And he knew he would probably die when he went back into the fire? Yes. The fire chief told him it was too dangerous. Everyone told him. Queen Velthra shook her massive head slowly. This makes no sense. In my empire, we protect our own bloodlines. We fight for our families, our clans. No warrior would sacrifice himself for a stranger. There is no genetic benefit, no political advantage, no glory. Tommy felt something spark inside him. This was the moment. This was what he needed to explain. That is what makes humans different, he said. The queen tilted her head. Explain. Tommy took a deep breath. Your Majesty, you asked what this medal means. You asked why my father would die for a stranger. The answer is simple, but it is also hard to understand if you have never felt it. He looked around the chamber at all the alien faces watching him. Humans are not the strongest species. We are not the fastest or the smartest. We cannot fly or breathe underwater or survive in space without protection. We are soft, fragile, and short-lived. By every measure you use, we should be prey. Commander Kreth nodded slowly. This is true. By our standards, you are very weak. Yes, Tommy agreed. But weakness taught us something that strength never could. It taught us that we need each other. The chamber was completely silent. On Earth, a single human alone in the wilderness will die very quickly. We have no claws, no armor, no venom. But humans together can survive anything. We learned this thousands of years ago. We learned that our strength is not in our bodies. It is in our hearts. It is in our willingness to protect each other. Tommy touched his medal. My father did not save Emma because she was useful to him. He saved her because somewhere, deep inside every human, there is a voice that says, "This person matters. This life is precious. I cannot walk away." General Vostok leaned forward. But why? What is the evolutionary purpose? What does your species gain from this? This reckless sacrifice? Tommy smiled. It was a sad smile, but also a proud one. Everything, he said. We gain everything. Because when humans know that strangers will die for them, they stop being strangers. They become family. They become us. And that is how a weak, soft, fragile species took over an entire planet. The aliens looked at each other. This was something they had never considered. Your species protects your bloodlines, Tommy said. Your clans, your tribes. But humans protect everyone. The old woman on the street. The child lost in the store. The stranger trapped in a burning building. We protect them all because they are all us. They are all human. And as long as one of us is in danger, none of us are safe. Queen Velthra was staring at Tommy with an expression he could not read. But your father is dead, she said quietly. This child, Emma, she will never be able to repay him. She will grow up, live her life, and your father will still be dead. How is that a victory? Tommy felt tears running down his cheeks, but he did not wipe them away. Because Emma is alive, he said. Because she gets to grow up. Because she gets to play soccer and go to school and maybe someday have children of her own. Because somewhere, right now, Emma is laughing or smiling or dreaming about her future. That is the payment. That is the victory. He looked at the Queen with fierce eyes. My father did not want to be repaid. He did not want glory or medals or statues. He just wanted Emma to live. And she does. Every breath she takes, every laugh, every moment of joy in her life. That is my father's legacy. That is what he died for. And that is worth more than all the conquered planets in your empire. The chamber was so quiet that Tommy could hear his own heartbeat. Commander Kreth stood up from his seat. The massive Ravik walked slowly down to the floor of the chamber, his footsteps heavy and loud. He stopped a few feet from Tommy and looked down at the small human boy. I have killed many warriors, he said. His voice was rough, almost breaking. I have fought battles across dozens of worlds. I have faced death 100 times and never felt fear. He paused, and Tommy saw something strange in the alien's eyes. Something wet. But I have never shown courage like your father. I have never risked my life for a stranger. I have never loved someone I did not know. The Ravik commander slowly lowered himself to one knee. His massive body bent, his tusked head bowed until it was almost touching the floor. I bow to the memory of James Park, he said. I bow to a warrior greater than myself. Tommy stared in shock. The most fearsome predator in the galaxy was kneeling before him. And then General Vostok stood up. The Thornax warrior walked down to the floor with heavy steps. His scales scraped against each other as he moved. When he reached Tommy, he too lowered himself to one knee. The Thornax have never bowed to another species, he rumbled. We believe in strength above all things. But I see now that we did not understand what true strength means. One by one, the predator species rose from their seats and walked down to the floor. The aliens that had laughed at humans, that had called them weak and primitive. They all knelt before a 12-year-old boy with tears on his face and a bronze medal on his chest. Queen Velthra watched it all with ancient eyes. Then, slowly she too began to lower herself. The Queen of the Dominion Empire, conqueror of 47 worlds, knelt before Tommy Park. "Tell me," she said softly, "is your father special among humans? Or are there others like him?" Tommy looked at the kneeling aliens all around him. Then he smiled. "Your Majesty," he said, "my father was not special. Not in the way you mean. On Earth, right now, there are millions of people just like him. Firefighters, soldiers, doctors, nurses, police officers, and ordinary people who would run into fire to save a stranger. My father was special to me because he was my dad. But what he did, humans do that every day." The Queen's 4 eyes widened. "Every day?" "Every single day," Tommy said. "All over our planet. Every minute of every hour, somewhere on Earth, a human is risking their life for someone they have never met. That is who we are. That is what makes us human." Queen Velthra stared at the small boy for a long moment. Then she reached out with one clawed hand and gently touched the metal on his chest. "I think," she said slowly, "that the galaxy has made a terrible mistake about your species." Tommy looked at her with questioning eyes. "We thought you were prey," the Queen continued. "We thought you were weak and fragile and easy to conquer. But I see now that we were wrong. Completely wrong." She rose to her feet, and the other aliens rose with her. "A species that loves strangers as their own," she said, her voice echoing through the chamber. "A species that runs toward death to save lives they will never know. Such a species is not prey." She looked at Tommy with something that might have been respect, or maybe even fear. "Such a species is something the galaxy has never seen before." The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. Every alien, from the smallest Mallory to the largest Ravik, was staring at the small human boy in the center of the room. Tommy Park stood there with his father's medal on his chest, surrounded by some of the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. And they were all looking at him with new eyes. Queen Velthra returned to her throne, but she did not sit down. Instead, she stood before it and raised all 4 of her arms in a gesture that Tommy did not understand. The other aliens in the chamber immediately became still and attentive. "Let it be recorded in the eternal archives of the Galactic Council," she announced, her voice echoing through the massive room. "On this day, humanity was introduced to the galaxy. And on this day, we learned a truth that will change everything we believe about strength and weakness. About predator and prey." She turned her 4 eyes to Tommy. "Step forward, young human." Tommy walked closer to the throne. His legs were shaking a little, but he made them keep moving. Behind him, he could feel Uncle David watching with pride and fear mixed together. "You came here today wearing a warrior's medal," Queen Velthra said. "But it was not your medal to wear. Not yet." She reached up to her own chest and did something Tommy could not see. When her hand came away, she was holding something small and glowing. It was a crystal, purple like her skin, shaped like a star with many points. "This is the Star of Velthra," she said. "In 300 cycles, I have given it to only 7 warriors. They were the greatest fighters my empire has ever known. Each one earned it by doing something that seemed impossible, something that changed the course of history." She held out the crystal toward Tommy. "I give it now to you, Tommy Park, not for fighting, not for conquering, but for teaching the most powerful beings in the galaxy what true courage really means." Tommy stared at the glowing crystal. "Your Majesty, I did not do anything. I just told you about my father. And that is exactly why you deserve this," the Queen said. "You honored your father's memory. You carried his story across the stars and shared it with those who needed to hear it. That takes a different kind of courage, young human. The courage to be vulnerable. The courage to show your tears in front of predators who could destroy you." She pressed the crystal into Tommy's hand. It was warm, and it pulsed with a soft light. "Wear it beside your father's medal," she said. "Let them both remind you of what humanity can be." Tommy looked at the crystal in his hand. Then he looked up at the Queen and did something that surprised everyone, including himself. He bowed. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will try to be worthy of both." Queen Velthra smiled, but this time it was not a cruel smile. It was something softer, almost kind. "I believe you will," she said. She turned to address the entire chamber. "Hear me now, all species of the Galactic Council. Humanity is under my protection. Any attack on Earth or its people will be considered an attack on the Dominion Empire itself." A murmur ran through the chamber. This was huge. The Dominion Empire was the most powerful force in the galaxy. Being under their protection meant that no one would dare threaten humanity. "But this is not because I feel sorry for them," the Queen continued. "It is not because they are weak or need our help. It is because I have seen what they are willing to do for each other. And I believe that one day they may be willing to do the same for us." She looked at Tommy. "A species that produces warriors like James Park is not a species to be conquered. It is a species to be befriended, to be allied with, to be learned from." Commander Kreth stepped forward. "The Ravik agree. We formally request alliance with humanity." General Vestok nodded his scaled head. "The Thornax as well. We would be honored to fight alongside humans who have such courage." One by one, other species added their voices. The Malori offered trade agreements. The insect-like Vex offered to share their medical technology. Even species that had barely spoken during the meeting came forward with offers of friendship and cooperation. Uncle David walked to stand beside Tommy. His face was wet with tears, but he was smiling. "You did it, Tommy," he whispered. "You did what 100 diplomats could never have done. You made them understand." Tommy looked up at his uncle. "I just told them about Dad." "I know," Uncle David said. And that was enough. The meeting lasted for several more hours. There were formal agreements to sign, promises to make, and plans to discuss. But all of it happened differently than anyone had expected. The aliens who had come to judge humanity now wanted to welcome them. The predators who had laughed at their weakness now wanted to learn their strength. And through it all, Tommy sat quietly beside his uncle, holding the Star of Velthra in one hand and touching his father's medal with the other. When the meeting finally ended, the human delegation prepared to leave. They would return to their ship, travel back to Earth, and report everything that had happened. Humanity would learn that they were not alone in the universe, and that somehow, against all odds, they had earned the respect of the Galaxy. As they walked toward the exit, Commander Kreth stepped into their path. The massive Ravek towered over them, his gray skin and tusks making him look like something from a nightmare. But he dropped to one knee in front of Tommy. "Young warrior," he said, "I want you to know something. When I return to my world, I will tell my people about your father. I will tell them about James Park and the little girl named Emma, and I will teach them that there is a kind of strength they have never understood." Tommy looked at the kneeling predator. "Thank you, Commander." "No," Kreth said. "Thank you. I have lived for 200 cycles, and I thought I knew everything about courage. Today, a human child showed me that I knew nothing." He rose and stepped aside, letting the humans pass. Outside the chamber, other aliens lined the walls of the corridor. Word had spread quickly about what had happened inside. As Tommy and his uncle walked past, the aliens bowed their heads. Predators, prey, and everything in between. They all showed respect to the small human boy with the bronze medal. When they finally reached their ship, Tommy stopped and turned to look back at the massive council building one last time. "Dad," he whispered, touching the medal on his chest. "I wish you could have seen this." Uncle David put a hand on his shoulder. "I think he did see it, Tommy, I think he was with you the whole time." Tommy smiled through his tears. "You think so?" "I know so. And I think he would be very, very proud of you." They boarded the ship and prepared for the journey home. As they lifted off and flew away from the council station, Tommy looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, Emma was living her life. She was going to school, playing soccer, dreaming about the future. She probably did not think about the fire very often anymore. She was just a normal girl doing normal things. And that was exactly what James Park had died for. Tommy held his father's medal close to his heart and made a silent promise. "I will make you proud. Dad, I will show the galaxy what humans can be. I will teach them that strength is not about conquering or killing. It is about protecting and saving. It is about love." He looked at the star of Velthra glowing in his other hand. "And I will never, ever forget." The ship jumped to light speed, carrying the human delegation back to Earth. Behind them, the Galactic Council was forever changed. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. And in fire stations across Earth, in hospitals and police departments and military bases, ordinary humans continued to do extraordinary things. They ran toward danger. They saved strangers. They gave their lives for people they would never meet. Because that is what humans do. That is who humans are. And the galaxy was only beginning to understand that in the Council archives. A new entry was recorded. It read, "Human Species Assessment Revised. Previous classification as potential conquest target removed. New classification, essential allies. Notes: humanity possesses a quality unknown to other galactic species. They call it love. It makes them willing to die for strangers. This quality must be studied and, if possible, learned. Initial contact made by 12-year-old human named Tommy Park, who carried the memory of his father, James Park, a warrior of the highest order. The galaxy is now watching humanity with hope instead of contempt. We believe they may teach us to be better than we are." And at the very bottom of the entry, added by Queen Velthra herself, they run toward fire. Remember this. Always remember this. The end.